This is the newsroom for Friday, April 23, 2021. We're broadcasting to you on E1, Scar TV, NTN, and Tarzi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, as the probe continues into an alleged fuel scandal at GuyOil, the Finance Minister, Dr. Ashley Singh, says action will be taken against those found responsible.
We have absolutely no tolerance in this government for any corrupt practices.
President REFRAIN recommits to providing free university education and tackling wasteful government spending. A minibus driver who attacked a traffic cop with a cutlass is jailed for 12 months. First hemp seed could be legally planted in Guyana soon. And in sport, Cricket West Indies focused on bridging the gap between under-19 and senior cricket, says President Ricky Skerritt. With the news, I'm Kurt Campbell. We're glad you can join us. First up, Finance Minister Dr. Ashley Singh on Friday affirmed that combined action will be taken against responsible parties as the Auditor General Deodat Sharma commences an audit into allegations of a fuel scandal amounting to millions of dollars at the Guyana Oil Company Limited, GuyOil. Shakima D has her story.
The government, according to the Finance Minister Dr. Ashley Singh, has a zero-tolerance policy for corrupt practices. Dr. Singh made the comments on Friday in direct response to questions regarding the fuel scandal allegations at the Guyana Oil Company, GuyOil, which led to the resignation of its newly appointed general manager, Trevor Basso. Dr. Singh, speaking with reporters on the sidelines of an event on Friday, made it clear that with an audit being undertaken by the Auditor General, Deodat Sharma, once confirmation of wrongdoings is received, all parties responsible will face combined actions.
As you know, immediately upon the matter being brought to my attention, the allegations that were in the public domain being brought to my attention, I summoned a meeting of the Board of Directors immediately, which was held the same afternoon. They updated me on the situation, as a result of which I asked for an urgent investigation to be done by the Auditor General. So the Auditor General has been invited to conduct an investigation. I should say that the Board repeatedly emphasized that there is no contract with the company in question, and that while there may have been, by some parties connected to the company or some officials connected to the company, there might have been some communication with the company, that there was no contract concluded with the company at any point in time. The Board made that very clear to me. I said that notwithstanding that assurance, I wanted the Auditor General to still do an audit, which has now been requested. So that work is going to take place, if it hasn't started already. Let me make it very clear, and I said this to the Board, I said this to the senior management, and I said it publicly, I will say it again. We have absolutely no tolerance in this government for any corrupt practices, and we will of course be guided by the results of the audit, and I can assure you that we will take condign action against any parties who might have been in the event any appropriate practices are identified.
Allegations had surfaced in the media on Tuesday of a $1 million fuel scandal involving the general manager, who has since denied the claims. A subsequent release from GuyOil refuted the allegations made by Aaron Realty Inc. that it had contracted them to supply fuel and that there were kickbacks involved. The GuyOil release stated that there was no truth to the allegations and clarified that whilst ARI was one of a number of companies which GuyOil had discussions with on the possibility of supplying fuel, GuyOil had not at any time entered into a contract with them. Following Basso's resignation, a subcommittee of the Board of Directors has been appointed to oversee the day-to-day operations of the company. For the newsroom, I am Shakima Day.
Thank you, Shakima. We tell you now that President REFRAIN on Friday recommitted to his previously stated plans to ensure Guyanese benefit from free education at the University of Guyana and tackling wasteful government spending. This, he said, would contribute to ensuring Guyana's public and private sectors become productive and efficient. The head of state was at the time delivering remarks at the virtual 29th Annual General Meeting of the Private Sector Commission. More details in this report. Speaking on the issue of free university education, which the governing PPPC has committed to providing by 2025, President Irfan Ali said this is proof that the government is not only interested in a vibrant economy, but also the vibrancy of the pool of human resource across the country.
We are also working to ensure that our promise of free university education is accomplished before the end of our 5 years. The objective of this is to ensure not only do we have the most vibrant economy, but also the most vibrant pool of human resources, the most talented, skilled, trained, and qualified human resources to take our country forward.
Dr. Ali told the Private Sector Commission's AGM that all of this is part of the government's plan to ensure sustainability and stability. Likewise, Dr. Ali assured that serious management of government resources will also be realized. He said already there are systems being put in place which offer enhanced revenue administration.
We have to ensure that wasteful spending is removed from public expenditure, so that more money can be directed to the creation of wealth. More money can be directed to the empowerment of our human resources. More money can be directed to the expansion of our economy. And this is exactly what the focus of the government is on.
The President called on the PSC to support the government's transformative agenda, which he explained drives the realization of these opportunities. This support, he said, requires the private sector to be transformative and aggressive. The President touched on a range of other issues, including sound macroeconomics, building capacity to meet future demands, security, and local content. On the issue of local content, he said the government was also aggressively looking to ensure the policy is completed soon, which offers clear directions on how this is to be achieved. Friday's virtual session was attended by other government officials, members of the diplomatic community, and a range of private sector actors. It included the laying of the PSC's annual report and a message from outgoing chairman Nicholas Boyer. The Sophia minibus driver who was caught on camera assaulting a traffic officer and resisting arrest was on Friday sentenced to 12 months imprisonment after he appeared at the Georgetown Magistrates Court to answer to 14 charges. Collis White first appeared before Magistrate Leron Daly on 5 charges: resisting arrest, using indecent language towards police officer Edwin Connolly, disorderly behavior, carrying an offensive weapon, and threatening behavior. White pleaded guilty to all the charges except for the disorderly behavior charge. Magistrate Daly sentenced White to a total of 12 months imprisonment and remanded him to prison for the latter. The matter is adjourned to May 17th. He was then arraigned before Magistrate Clive Nurse on 4 counts of dangerous driving, failure to give the right away, failure to wear a seatbelt, breach of prescribed road fitness, conduct of a driver, and failure to wear a face mask. White pleaded not guilty to 3 of the charges and guilty to failure to wear a seatbelt. He was released on $240,000 bail and fined $7,500 on the latter. The case was adjourned to May 28th. According to reports, at around 13:15 hours on the day in question, the traffic cop was on patrol on Homestretch Avenue when the minibus driven by White was seen overtaking the line of traffic with at least 15 vehicles ahead of him. White was stopped by the officer, but he reportedly drove away. The traffic officer chased after White and caught up with him on Sheriff Street and stopped him once more. It is alleged that White exited his vehicle, armed himself with a cutlass, and chased after the officer, forcing him to flee for his safety. White was later arrested by patrol officers. 4 days after 250 tons of disaster relief supplies were packed into the Lady Fazila vessel and departed Guyana's waters, it will arrive on the volcano-ravaged island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Saturday. Guyana's Consul General in St. Vincent, Nigel Russell, said the vessel first stopped in Barbados to deliver water and water tanks and is slated to set sail from Barbados sometime Friday afternoon.
Second one that is expected here perhaps tomorrow is the Lady Fazila that left on Wednesday. It's in Barbados. We just spoke to them there. They expected to depart Barbados this afternoon between 4 and 5 o'clock to get here sometime tomorrow. I'm not sure there was another one before that, but I know for sure. Miss Mina left on Tuesday. The Lady Fazila is due sometime tomorrow.
Yeah, you are correct. You are correct.
Good.
The port of call for us was Barbados.
Was Barbados.
And then the third ship is being put together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are right. So, Mr. Campbell, I hope we've clarified that.
That was Guyana's Consul General in St. Vincent, Nigel Russell, speaking during a virtual session organized by Guyana's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation on Friday. Carrying among its cargo of relief supplies for the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the ship will also deliver personal care packages for Guyanese on the island sent by relatives in Guyana. Russell, in providing an update on the situation on Friday, told the media that his office is responsible for collecting those personal barrels and boxes and ensuring it gets to the intended persons. His office is also working with the Guyanese Association in St. Vincent, headed by Gwyneth Cambridge, to ensure that the items which were sent for the consulate are distributed across to most of the vulnerable persons on the island.
I am to date very happy with how things are going. I haven't had any adverse calls about the distribution process. My role is very simple. I do the coordination. Things that come to my office, we document and we deliver to the Guyanese Association. They do the distribution. So my role is not to distribute worldwide or nationwide. It's a supplier. We supply based upon what is available. It is documented, and the Guyanese Association, with their volunteers, they do the distribution. That's working fine. And you must know, this has just begun. We have months down the road to do this.
Russell said persons have been requesting from his office items such as mattresses and water tanks, but those items have been sent directly to the government of St. Vincent to support persons in public shelters. The relief support for St. Vincent from Guyana is coordinated by the Civil Defense Commission at the behest of President Irfan Ali, with a major shipment of 350 tons of items arriving there last Saturday. The Consul General was joined on the Zoom call by Foreign Secretary Robert Prasad and head of the Diaspora Unit at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Rosalinda Rasool. The Foreign Secretary said Guyana's support for St. Vincent and Guyanese on the island will be continuous, with another shipment being prepared.
There were persons who contacted Ms. Rasool, relatives in Georgetown, who wanted to send care packages to their affected relatives.
Yeah.
And we were able to work that arrangement whereby they would have put a box in the relative's name and then a second box, have that enclosed in a box addressed to the honorary consul for a matter of convenience and logistics. So I'm happy that is clarified. That is not going to him for his distribution, but he more or less conveying that from the relatives in Georgetown to their relatives in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that particular aspect. And it's a mechanism that we put in place to connect family with families.
That's correct.
The island, which has experienced several eruptions at the volcano in the last 2 weeks, is still dealing with the effects of fallen ash. The latest eruption occurred on Thursday. The volcano remains active. It began to explosively erupt 2 Fridays ago, displacing approximately 20,000 persons. Backed by the United Nations, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, led by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, recently launched a global appeal to not only help its own recovery, but those neighboring countries affected by the periodic eruptions. Grades 2, 4, and 9 assessments and placement exams have been cancelled due to COVID-19, and first hemp seed could be legally planted in Guyana soon. Those and more stories when the newsroom returns. You're watching the newsroom. Due to the constraints placed on students by the COVID-19 pandemic, the Ministry of Education has taken the decision to cancel the grades 2, 4, and 9 assessments, along with the ministry's placement examinations this year. This was announced on Thursday night by Chief Education Officer Dr. Marcel Hodson.
Due to the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the education sector, the national grades 2, 4, and 9 and the placement examinations will not be written in 2021. We recognize the hardships our students would have been experiencing in terms of their readiness and preparedness for these examinations. And we also recognize the need for us to ensure that our students are safe. So as a result, what we will see is the private schools who are desirous, students from the private schools who are desirous of entering the public schools will be placed at the school awarded from the results of the National Grade 6 assessment. In addition, remigrant learners will be placed in appropriate List A and B secondary schools, closer to their homes.
The Chief Education Officer noted that the Assistant Chief Education Officers and the Regional Education Officers REO will be responsible for ensuring that the placement process is done with the greatest degree of efficiency and effectiveness. Despite the cancellation of these examinations, the National Grade 6 assessment will be written this year. Last month, Minister of Education Prem Manichan highlighted that 14,300 Grade 6 students across the country will write this secondary school entrance examination on August 4 and 5 this year. The assessment is usually written in April, but this has been postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As the world celebrates Global Hemp Day, observed annually on April 21st, an enthusiastic Guyana hemp industries is hoping that the first hemp seed could be planted legally here by June 2021. It comes after 4 years of dedicated and serious lobbying and millions of dollars spent on education awareness by the Guyana hemp industries pushing for the legalization of industrial hemp. The renewed hope for hemp cultivation in Guyana comes as the advocacy body was notified recently by Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anand Nandlal that he has completed all legal recommendations for the establishment of industrial hemp in Guyana and submitted same to the Ministry of Agriculture. During an interview with the Newsroom on Friday, co-chair of the Guyana Hemp Industries, Michael Curtin, said a meeting has now been requested with the Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustafa, to move the process forward. That meeting could take place as early as next week.
So we are waiting word from the Ministry of Agriculture on what is the next step. We have already requested a meeting with Mr. Zulfikar Mustafa, Minister of Agriculture, for the new week to discuss the issue. As you are aware that the REFRAIN-led administration gave the green light to the AG to start to investigate the establishment of the industry, we submitted 2 pre-feasibility studies to him, which he studied with some other documents. And as he said to us that he has finished with his part. It's now left to the Ministry of Agriculture to do the necessary, which is to give permission to us to start the industry.
Speaking on the readiness of hemp advocates across the country, Curtin said everyone stands ready to start the associated production and manufacturing activities with land clearing underway. He said the body has already entered into a memorandum of understanding with a USA-based company to provide supplies, seeds, and equipment needed to start the project in Guyana.
We started with the Guyana Hemp Association, and that was eventually still in existence, but with dormant, and with the arrival of Mr. Varman Badesi, we decided to form the Guyana Hemp Industries. And with a lot of inputs in terms of funding, we were able to push the lobbying process very far. We were able to visit every region in this country. Every river, majority of rivers and communities we visited. We've had many seminars and workshops. And we had 4 international conferences, concerts, which we pushed the message of the awareness of industrial hemp. So it's been a long, very hard task, but we are coming to the end of something that I believe will bring great benefits to the Republic of Guyana.
He anticipates that the first seed will be planted by June 1st, 2021 along the east bank of Berbice and hopes that President Irfan Ali would agree to be the one to plant the first seed. Curtin said the returns are pegged at $6 million from every acre of hemp every 90 to 100 days. Lobbyists for the cause are now rejoicing that legalization of industrial hemp in Guyana may come sooner than later. Despite geographical challenges that constrain a swift vaccination rollout, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony has assured its citizens that the country is striving for an equitable distribution of the COVID-19 vaccines across all regions. The minister assured that people in the hinterland communities have been receiving their vaccines during this daily COVID-19 update on Friday.
They have access because in regions 1, 7, 8, and 9, we have special programs where our health teams are going into every village, and those who want to have the vaccines, we are able to give them the vaccine. So we have intensified our outreach work in these regions. Region 9 is one of the leading regions in terms of how many vaccines they have been giving out. And they have several teams in different sub-districts of Region 9 that are working simultaneously. Similarly in Region 1. In Region 8 and 7, they're posing some peculiar challenges because with Region 8, the mountains and so forth have been very challenging for the health team. Nevertheless, teams have been going out and reaching out to villages. One of the challenges that some of our teams have encountered is hesitancy in a few of the villages, but we are working on that. We are trying to talk to the church leaders, we are trying to talk to the community leaders, and hopefully we'll be able to persuade them so that the rest of the community would come on board and take the vaccines.
Staying with us, you're watching the Newsroom. 5 of 7 juveniles who escaped from the Luzitnan holding center in Georgetown in the wee hours of Thursday morning have been recaptured. While 4 was recaptured early on Thursday, a 5th juvenile was recaptured later in the day with the aid of relatives. The Newsroom understands that the juveniles were able to escape after they breached the building and the fence. 2 of the escapees remain at large. Dharmshala, the longest existing humanitarian charity in Guyana and possibly the Caribbean, on Friday celebrated its 100th anniversary. The occasion was marked by a Thanksgiving ceremony held at the Dharmshala's Sussex Street All Boys Town location, where Finance Minister Dr. Ashley Singh joined with the Ramroop sisters to celebrate the milestone. More in this report from Shakima D.
Finance Minister Dr. Ashni Singh joined Ms. Kella and Ms. Pamela Ramsaroop, donors, well-wishers, family and friends of the Dharmshala, home of benevolence, to mark its 100th anniversary. Singh heaped praise on the Ramsaroops, who have ably filled the vacuum left following the death of their father, Hari Saran Ramsaroop, in 2013, who took up the mantle of leadership after his father, founder of the Dharmshala, Pandit Ramsaroop Maharaj, died in 1950.
We have seen the Dharmshala continue to provide an invaluable service to an extremely important constituency in our national landscape. Our senior citizens who have served Guyana so well in so many different capacities. And I wish to salute on behalf of the President, President Irfan Ali, and his entire government, and indeed on behalf of all of the people of Guyana, I wish on the occasion of the 100th anniversary of the Dharmshala to salute the founder, Pandit Ramsaroop Maharaj, and his son, Mr. Hari Ramsaroop, and the family, this distinguished Guyanese family, who have served this institution and indeed our entire community and country so selflessly, that I believe they have provided us all with an example of good civic and social consciousness.
Dr. Singh, in his remarks, also stated that government has recognized the remarkable contributions to society by the elderly, which in turn led them to show appreciation by making ample provisions in Budget 2021.
I wish to say that we in Guyana are indebted, all of us in Guyana are indebted to the previous generations who preceded us. And as I look around the room, I see many people who would have served this country in one capacity or another, or worked to help the development of this country in one capacity. Whatever it is that you did, you would have contributed in one way or another to the making of the Guyana of today. And I wish to say that the current generation of Guyanese are eternally indebted to the generations who preceded us.
The Dharmshala was officially declared open in 1929 by Reverend C. Andrews, who was an admirer of Mahatma Gandhi. In 1939, a Christian chapel was built, and in 1941, the Dharmshala extended its service to Berbice with a building of similar capacity to its Georgetown counterpart, a Hindu temple and a chapel. For the Newsroom, I am Shakima Day.
Thank you, Shakima. Guyana's head of state, Dr. Irfan Ali, on Thursday described the ratification of the Escazu Agreement as a significant milestone in the region and affirmed that the agreement will reinforce democracy, transparency, accountability, and effectiveness in dealing with an environment affected by climate change. The president was at the time addressing regional leaders virtually to commemorate the entry into the force of the Escazu Agreement. The regional agreement on access to information, public participation, and justice in environmental matters in Latin America and the Caribbean.
The Caribbean and Latin America should feel a sense of collective pride on account of its continued sterling environmental leadership, as exemplified by this agreement. Guyana became the first state party to ratify the Escazu Agreement on April 9, 2019. Guyana, as a signatory to the agreement, hereby endorses the right of access to environmental information. It welcomes public participation in the environmental decision-making process. It supports access to justice in environmental matters and commits to working to ensure the right of every person to live in a healthy environment. The Escazu Agreement is aligned to our constitutional obligations. Our Constitution proclaims that everyone has the right to an environment that is not harmful to his or her well-being. We subscribe to the belief that public access to information and citizens' participation in environmental decision-making are vital elements of sound environmental stewardship. Rights and inclusion, cornerstones of democratic societies, are the heart of the Escazu Agreement. The agreement responds to the important affirmation of heads of states and government at Rio Plus 20. That access rights contribute to the strengthening of democracy, good governance, and human rights. Reinforcing democracy, transparency, accountability, and effective, inclusive, and responsive institutions and policies is crucial. Access to information and broad-based involvement in environmental decision-making play a vital role in the sustainable development equation.
The president said that the agreement is aligned with Guyana's constitutional obligations, which proclaims that everyone has the right to an environment that is not harmful to his or her well-being. Dr. Ali also emphasized that Guyana subscribes to the belief that public access to information and citizens' participation in environmental decision-making are vital elements of sound environmental stewardship. When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather, and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back to the newsroom now for a look at what's happening in sport. We start things off with some cricket news. Cricket West Indies President Ricky Skerritt, in an exclusive interview with Newsroom Sport on Friday, said that they are placing great focus on the emerging players after they would have moved on from the under-19 group. Skerritt also felt it is important that territorial boards play their part in developing programs to continue the growth of these players.
You have just hit a very important point that is crucial to the total package, the total cricket system, where between age 19 and about 23, 24, maybe 25, you run the risk of losing some of your talent if there's no room for them to get into the territorial board, set up the contracts, or there's nothing else happening side by side. You'd recall that in 2019, which was the first few months in office, we put in place an emerging players team under the coaching leadership of Floyd Reefer that actually won the Super 50 that the end of that year in Trinidad. Super 50 was in St. Kitts and Trinidad. those players are in danger. Some of them are being lost. But guess what? At least one of them has gone on to the West Indies T20 team, and you know who he is. And so it tells us that we have to keep that program going. We also started the program with the CPL, where the CPL team, each franchise has to include at least 2 emerging players. That list of emerging players is being prepared right now by Jimmy Adams and his selectors and so on to send to the CPL so that the time of the draft and so on, they can be included into the CPL. But it needs more than that. That is just the tip of the iceberg. But at least we have started. It's going to take some investment. It's going to take one of our promises in our 10-point plan is more international exposure for under 19 and emerging players. The under 19 has gotten a fair amount of investment. We had in 2019, we had England and Sri Lanka visit to play a triangular series before they went off to the World Cup in South Africa. That was good practice, good preparation, but we need more of that. We have some of that planned for this year for the under 19. We hope to have South Africa and possibly India come to give us another triangular series towards the end of the year, but they need to be doing more even before that. Hopefully there might even be an England tour involved for the under 19. So the under 19 is benefiting this year, primarily because not because only of our commitment, but because of the World Cup in January. And we have, no matter how bad things are, no matter how awkward it is to get players together in the same territory, we simply just have to do whatever we can so that our team is at the best that it can be. But your point, emerging players, we have to encourage the territorial boards to do specific programs with the emerging players, even if they can't get into their franchise system. Every franchise system needs to have younger players and senior players. We need to have a mix, but we got to make sure that the best young players can make their way into the system. We can't afford to lose them. We have too few players as it is. We need to broaden our pool of players, and that's very important to us.
We tell you now that the Cricket West Indies CWI has published a comprehensive full-color annual report for 2020. The public release of the report follows the recently concluded CWI annual general meeting held on April 11, 2021. The 36-page document reports on CWI's progress in relation to implementing its Cricket First strategic plan in the face of the unprecedented challenges caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The annual report features specific reports on cricket, fan engagement and commercial development, as well as finance, all of which were presented to the shareholder members at a recent AGM. Commenting on the release of the report, re-elected CWI President Ricky Skerritt said the production of a holistic and analytical report to the shareholders, published for general stakeholders' reading, is not unprecedented. However, for various reasons, CWI has not prepared such an annual report for several years, Skerritt noted. The release of CWI's annual report follows the publication of the audited financial statements, which for the first time includes the consolidated accounts with Coolidge Cricket Ground in Antigua. The Ghana Amateur Powerlifting Federation will host its Novices and Juniors National Championship and qualifiers on Sunday at the St. Stanislaus College, and all systems are in place for a successful event. Akim Green reports.
The championships will mark the Federation's first since the pandemic struck these shores in March 2020. While a precise number of competitors is not yet known, since registration closes on Saturday, a member of the Federation explained, apart from the novices and juniors, all senior powerlifters who intend to represent Ghana later in the year would have to lift. According to the Federation, some of the athletes who would be guest lifters to achieve a qualifying total are Paul Adams, Wazim Mohammed, Nadina Tarahali, and Franklin Brisport. The overseas competition is the Pan American Regional Powerlifting Championships from August 17 to the 21st in Orlando, Florida. On Sunday, the weigh-in begins at 6 hours and ends at 7 hours 30, while competition action commences at 8 hours. Due to the COVID-19 regulations, the Federation will not be allowing spectators at the venue, and each team will only be allowed one coach. Everyone present will be expected to wear a mask. The competition will be live streamed for the virtual audience. For the newsroom, Akin Green.
The Guyana Motor Racing and Sports Club, the GMRNSC, will host its 30th annual general meeting on May 17 at the club's headquarters on Thomas Road and Albert Street in Georgetown. In a notice published by Secretary of the GMRNSC, Azim Jafar, on the club's social media page on Thursday, April 22, the agenda items were outlined for the AGM set for 19 hours. Apart from the election of members to the Executive Committee and auditors, members will be presented with the audited financial report for 2019 and 2020, the Treasurer's report, and any other business. Members must submit to the Secretary in writing 7 days before the date of the AGM the names of persons they wish to nominate for the election to the Executive Committee, and such nominations must be submitted with a proposer and a seconder. Businessman Ramiz Mohammed is the current GMRNSC president. Punjab Kings defeated Mumbai Indians by 9 wickets in a low-scoring and competitive match 17 of the IPL on Friday. Chasing 132, Punjab Kings had to fight hard to achieve the target, despite losing just 1 wicket. Mayank Agarwal was the only batsman dismissed for 25, as KL Rahul and Chris Gale batted their side to victory. Rahul finished on 60 of 52 and Gale ended on 43 of 35. Earlier, Rohit Sharma's 63 was the highlight of Mumbai Indians' 131 for 6, as Punjab Kings bowled well on a receptive wicket. Leg spinner Ravi Bishnoi playing his first game of the season, and Mohammad Shami picked up 2 for 21 apiece. IPL action continues on Saturday with a bottom-of-the-table clash between Rajasthan Royals and Kolkata Knight Riders from 10 hours in Mumbai. And the first test between Bangladesh and Sri Lanka seems to be heading to a high-scoring draw, as Sri Lanka were solid in response by stumps on day 3. After Bangladesh made 541 for 7 declared, Sri Lanka closed on 229 for 3, trailing by 312 runs. On a pitch that remains good for batting, Sri Lankan captain Dimit Karunaratne is eyeing a test 100 on 85. Fellow opener Lahiro Tirumane made 58 in Sri Lanka's strong reply. Earlier, overnight batsmen Mushfiqur Rahim and Litan Das both made 50s in Bangladesh's imposing total. Rahim was on 68 when the declaration came, and Das made 50. Nazimul Shanto made 163 and skipper Mominul Haq made 127. Bowling for Bangladesh, Vishwa Fernando took 4 for 96. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching.